Good morning, everyone. It's Lee Henson, your president and founder of AgileDad, and it's time for today's episode of the Daily Stand-Up. Without any further ado, let's get started. I first want to start off by apologizing. It appears that our provider for the podcast network had a couple of issues, and that caused us to miss a day of podcasting. So I do want to apologize that we missed one of our daily stand-ups. I promise that we'll make up for it with even bigger and better episodes to come. Today, being November 11th, is Veterans Day here in the United States, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about two or three topics that I find near and dear to my heart, and specifically, an opportunity for me to express gratitude for all those men and women who have made, sacrifices and, have put their own lives on the line in order for us to have the freedoms that we have here in the United States of America. Specifically, I wanted to talk about two veterans that I am very close to, one being my father, who served in the United States Air Force. His service proved to me that his strength, courage, and commitment to doing the right thing and to helping secure all the things that were necessary in order for us to have the freedoms that we have today. I speak and feel so highly about him, and with regard to the way that he conducts business, and with regard to the way that he, has since he's retired, he's been long retired, just the way that he carries himself. And one of the things that stands out to me is that I find that even though he may have strong viewpoints, he never looks away from an opportunity to protect someone else's ability to have a different point of view. And it's just very interesting to me to see how the military shaped him into such an amazing, wonderful man. I feel like even if he wasn't my father, I would still have those very complimentary things to say about him. And I loved him to death, obviously. It's just an amazing opportunity for us to dig deep and to look and say, what separates someone who serves in that capacity from someone as an individual who maybe didn't have an opportunity to serve or didn't serve? And what type of things are we looking for to help make connections? And what I can assure you is that it gets really interesting. So I want to tell you a story. So this story is another one that's very close to home for me. It's a story of a young man. So in World War II, this young man, he had an opportunity to go and serve as a Marine in World War II. And before he left, he told his sweetheart that he would surely be back for her and that they would have time to spend life together and build a family. And everything was aiming in that direction. And things were moving along, going very well. And one of the things that happened was he did go and serve as planned. And his brother, following in his footsteps, also went and served. His brother chose to serve in the Army. Now, while the Marine had a very hard time, and was eventually lost his life at the Battle of Iwo Jima, his brother had the responsibility of going back and telling his lonely sweetheart at home that there would be no marriage and no family, and that he gave the ultimate sacrifice for his country and for his people. At that moment, he knew what he had to do, and he stepped up. And I know times are different now, but he took the opportunity and he said, my brother made a promise to you that he was going to take care of you and that he was going to be there for you and that everything was going to be okay. He says, and I don't want to break his promise. And at that moment, he made a commitment to take care of this woman if she would have him. And even though the story sounds kind of strange, or Hallmark Channel-ish, if you will, what we discovered is that love always wins. And anyone who's ever heard me present before, you hear me say often that love always wins. But this mild-mannered military man in the Army who was a chef, a butcher and a chef, and he served generals and lots of different, combat veterans who are heroes, war heroes. He prepared all their food. And he went on to marry who would be my grandmother, and that's on my mother's side. And he served honorably as a military man, but even more importantly, he served honorably as a family man. And he left me with such an example. And the shoes that he had, I would never fill. He had perseverance, he had faith, he had courage, he was God-fearing. But the one thing I'll never forget was that he would always give to people in need. And anytime I'd ask him, I'd be like, Grandpa, or Papa in this case, I'd be like, how do you know that person needed that? Or how do you know that that person... And his response was always the same. He would say, Lee, I don't know. He says, but I don't want to be on the wrong side of the judgment on the last day. He says, if that person really needed it and I didn't give it to them, who am I? He says, if that person didn't need it and they took it from me, who are they? And I think that sometimes in our own lives, we don't think about other people, other individuals that way. We don't look at who am I versus who are they. And we often try to lay blame or to, make things more negative than what they have to be. In this day of political rage and turmoil and things that are happening, it's real easy for us to cast doubt on people and their abilities. But one thing that I did learn through the relationship both with my grandfather and with my father is that they had a couple of things in common, and one of those is that they had strong servant leadership. They knew how to lead, but they also knew how to uplift. And I think that's so incredibly important. And through my Agile journey, there are many times where I said, man, I bet my dad would make a great, project manager or a great scrum master or a great Agile coach. He had a little bit of a sales background and he knew what he was doing there. But this led me to consider one of our strongest partnerships. So AgileDad as a company is proud to have partnered with Vets to PM, Vets to Project Manager. And their whole goal is to help military members and their families have lucrative post-military life, engagements and jobs. And they teach them that all through their military career, they've been doing project management. This is something they've been doing naturally, and that it just hasn't been, written down or codified as an example of, on their resume. So helping them achieve the certifications that they need to be successful, helping them achieve the tools, helping them gather the tools that are necessary. Eric, Doc Wright, and the team at Vets to PM have really put together a phenomenal program to help veterans really successfully accelerate and do the things they need to do so that they can continue to serve, both inside and outside of the military, and to help those people who are transitioning out to really understand that their skills are valuable and that they can be applied. I just want to thank those three men that I brought up in this episode. First and foremost, my grandfather, who I miss so much and I love dearly. He taught me so much through doing so little. He didn't have to raise his voice or guide me with direct orders. Just following his example was enough for me to learn so much. My father, who I didn't have a strong relationship with for a number of years, who I finally did get to meet and see just what kind of an amazing man he is and how he uplifts and supports the family. And to mentors, people like Eric, Doc Wright, the founder of Vets to PM, who are on fire when it comes to just helping veterans be successful. My dear friend Kara Riley, who I support and love, and she is fantastic at helping veterans, really find their way and doing the things that they do. There's so many, more than I could ever, count on any number of hands. So many people who have just stepped up and really made a difference. And my hope is that as we think about this day and consider the veterans and we see people who are paying tribute and doing thank yous and doing things for them, I think it's just so important for us to really, consider what can we do to make a difference in the life of someone who served us so well. How can we give back to them, and how can we thank them for giving back to us? And, one of the things that we've done is we have a special challenge coin. It's an AgileDad Scrum Values Challenge coin. And, I didn't get to serve in the military, But I remember another one of my mentors, Bob Jean, who served in the Navy. He was the owner of a roller skating rink, and he told me, he said, Lee, he says, just because you sustained an injury and you weren't able to serve and you had other things on your plate doesn't mean that you can't serve those who serve now. And I took that to heart, and I found ways to uplift those people around me and to help them be better. And I guess what I'm trying to say, my challenge is for today, is even if you're not from the United States, or even if you don't celebrate Veterans Day, or even if you don't understand it, find a way to love and serve others. Find a way to give back to those. And especially with all the political turmoil and COVID and crap that's happening, these people have gone above and beyond in every aspect of their life to help us have the liberties and freedoms that we have today. It's important for us to look out for them, to serve them, and to thank them for all that they've done. So, an unusual episode for this Veterans Day, but I hope that you've learned something. Do tune in for additional episodes. If you have topics that you'd like to cover, we'd love to hear from you at learnmore@agiledad.com. And of course, you can visit agiledad.com to learn more about lots of Agile topics. Until next time, I encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Do take care.